Welcome to the Sports Hangover. I'm Michael Benator, joined alongside J Dawg. Almost messed it
Michael,
up there.
we've been doing this for 15 years, 15 week ones we've been going through, and this was another great one. I'm so excited to talk football with you.
It was good. You were over. We watched some football. It was a little smaller than we thought, so it was enjoyable. We could hear the game. We could watch everything. Now, did you watch Brady in the afternoon at all?
I did. After you kicked us out, I watched a little Tom Brady.
good.
Of course, Mike is happy to host for one window of football only,
Correct.
not both windows. Like 7 hours of uninterrupted football. That's too much to have people over. So it's only 3.
It is. But can I tell you, I read this book on parties, and it's called like the 2-hour cocktail party or something like that. And his one thing that really stuck with me was you always set an end time to a party so people know when to show up and when to leave. And I think it's a really nice thing. It's like, guess what? If Tony invited us over, our mutual friend invited us over to his house and never set an end date, guess who would not be too happy? His wife. And I think you got to send end dates to parties so people are like, oh, it's a 10-to-1 affair. I got to get there before 1 o'clock. Some people show up late. You don't show up late on football Sunday.
Because you still have to leave when the early games are over, according to Mike's rules. We didn't get any overtime early in the day. Mike, if that Rams-Lions game happened a little earlier, you may have been stressing like, oh my gosh, we're past the end point. The Browns-Cowboys game is starting, but the early window. Yesterday we had like full separation between the windows. There's like a little gap even. It's like just waiting for the Brady game. We'll talk Tom Brady. We'll talk Tyreek. We'll talk about some disappointments. We'll talk about some bullshit or believe. Caleb Williams, we have takes on. Where do we begin this crazy Monday?
Do you want to do some bullshit or believe? I have some bullshit or believes.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have some bullshit or believes. We could do that. All right, let's do bullshit or believe. Why don't you kick it off, and I'll do one after you.
The Steelers have a new franchise quarterback. Bullshit or believe, Justin Fields is going to save the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Bullshit. I think he had a similar day as Caleb Williams did. It wasn't great. Not a lot of passing. But I just don't think he's the franchise quarterback. And I love all the memes. If you've seen Russ on the side, inactive for the day, fully dressed and suited with a little earpiece in, that man's not playing. And he's
what were the
fully
shoulder
ready.
pads about there? He's inactive. He's the third quarterback. He's like 2 injuries away, and he had the pads on like he's ready. Like, dude, you're clearly
ready.
not ready. You're inactive. Like, did no one tell Russ that he wasn't playing?
I don't know. But Russ is just a special breed of kind of guy, and he's going to be starting at some point for the Steelers. And I think
if Justin Fields gets hurt, he will. But you are a Russ stan. You are one of the last ones remaining on Earth. You are a Russ person ever since the Seattle days. I know you're rooting for him, but I think Tomlin's going to come out to the podium tomorrow on Tuesday and say Justin Fields is our starting quarterback. I really think that.
There is no way that happens. There were no touchdowns scored, right? It was all field goals all day?
6 field goals by the Steelers. Big day for their kicker, who also became a punter. Mutual friend said, give the game ball to the kicker, and like no one wants to hear that, really.
No one does. But yeah, you should have. I don't think he's going to be starting quarterback. I do think Russ, if that defense is as good as it looked, and I guess they might be really good, then you let the defense do its thing and Russ steps in and actually throws the ball and gets some touchdowns, and they might actually be a contender and maybe make the playoffs this year and just over 500 team that's like mediocre and they get in.
Tell us about, did you bet on the Falcons? Because Steelers fan had an emotional hedge with you. Can you tell us that story?
It wasn't great. Over the week, we're talking. We're like, oh yeah, we got to bet against Pittsburgh. That's what mutual friend kept saying to me. I'm like, all right, like I guess we'll take Atlanta here. And I knew he tricked me. He tricked me on an emotional hedge. If we lose our bet, he wins emotionally and Pittsburgh wins and it's a happy day. Not again. I'm saying I'm banning betting against or with the Steelers for the next 10 weeks. He's in timeout.
Wow, you're taking a whole game off the board every week. You might see a line that you like. Well, just so you know, I know you have a lot of partnerships in your life. You have a wife, you have a gambling partner. This one is the longest one at 15 years. I would never lead you wrong with my emotions on that, just so you know.
Good, yeah. I don't want any emotional hedges when we're betting. That is the last thing I want. If it's emotional, you stay out of the bet. It's too close. It's like if you're involved in a crime and you're a cop, you're not allowed to be a part of the crime. At least that's what TV shows say. You're not allowed to be a part of the investigation.
You're right. You got to put your mind over your heart. I feel like you just led into Tyreek Hill. Did you just set us up for that?
I didn't set that up, but it works perfectly.
Let's move that direction. Yeah.
All right. Talk to me about Tyreek, because we saw the videos. We saw this. He scored a touchdown. He did a little handcuff thing. But then more reports are coming out, and it seemed like he was not cooperative with the cops. But I kept seeing videos. There was like 8 or 10 cops on bikes there. People were going by with video cameras. It was a whole scene. I don't know if you know anything else. That's all I've seen. I didn't really dig into it.
Multiple Dolphins, apparently. I saw the TMZ video today. Odell was out there. Calais Campbell was out there, like, trying to figure it out. Calais Campbell, who is an NFL Man of the Year, who has been in the NFL for like 15 years, one of the all-time good guys. They put handcuffs on him as he tried to de-escalate the situation with Tyreek. These cops were out of control, as so many cops are around this country. I am not taking a stance on anti-police or police. I know certain listeners of ours, certain friends of ours might want to point fingers, saying fan hypocrisy, all these things. I'm just saying, I saw the video. The guy was speeding and got put in handcuffs and put on the ground. He was taken down by an officer. It's crazy. The punishment did not fit the crime in this case. I don't know what these cops were thinking. These cops were paid, Mike, by the Miami Dolphins because it happened at the stadium. The Dolphins pay for all the cops and all the security on game days. It was 3 hours before the game. It wasn't like a super crowded parking lot or like foot traffic yet. Yes, if he was speeding, okay, give the man a ticket. He shouldn't be speeding. We don't know why these athletes drive themselves to the games in the first place. We always talk about that, yet they always do, and they always get in trouble. Going back to like Tiger Woods driving off a cliff. What the hell was that about?
Do you think that it's like I don't know. It almost seems like were they paid off like this? We can go conspiracy theory. My first thought was, were they paid off by the other team? Was this like, hey, like if he's coming in today, make sure he gets really like roughed up on his way in so we could win this game or something like that? Like, is there something behind that? Because that was my conspiracy theory thought. I don't think it's anywhere online, but I did see a statement by the police and they said, we stand by what we did. So I don't know where that goes from there.
We like conspiracy theories. I just don't know that you can like pinpoint Tyreek speeding in his luxury vehicle and pull him out and force him like that. But also, the day Scotty Scheffler got arrested, it reminded us all of that scenario a few months ago for the golf major at the PGA Championship. He was arrested in the morning, actually went to jail. He shot like a 66 that day, like 6 under par, and put himself in contention. And then Tyreek did a similar move with the 80-yard touchdown, his longest touchdown of his career. On the same day, he got put in handcuffs. So I love how these guys step up, like even through the adversity that they face. Like, Mike, if you got put in handcuffs before the party yesterday, you're not having a great party. I just
Party's
know.
over.
You're right. The party's over. You're inactive if that happens. You're inactive. You're going to be rattled. All be rattled in that situation. For him to come out and perform was great. The part that bothers me the most, and sorry to get on this subject, but Tyreek said something really powerful in the press conference afterwards, Mike. He said, what if I wasn't Tyreek? And it speaks to the larger issue of black men in this country being taken out of cars for speeding
deep right now.
and putting cops bringing down these guys for no reason. And what if he wasn't Tyreek? What if his Dolphins teammates didn't support him? What if it wasn't at the stadium? What does this look like? What does this look like across America every day? That is not a topic for this podcast, but it's a scary one that should be addressed, and it's not going away because there's all these questions about what the hell happened.
Well, we'll find out more details. Obviously, something's going to happen. I don't know if they're actually going to investigate it, but I'm sure something will happen because I don't know. It's weird. So can you actually like sue the cops? I feel like it's a really hard process to sue the cops, but you can sue anybody else.
I feel like Tyreek and Drew Rosenhaus, they can team up and take on anyone.
All right, I have a really good bullshit or believe here.
Okay.
Who will last longer at their starting position? Will it be Caleb Williams or Brady in the booth?
That's a good one. 2 rough starts in their first games yesterday. Brady on the Cowboys game really was trying really hard, it seemed like to me. Like he was really like efforting everything he said.
Did you notice the long dead air? And I was listening. Like I had the quad box going, but I put in his audio feed to listen. And there were moments where I thought the feed cut out. I thought no one was talking. It was like a kickoff. Yeah. No one was talking. No one's doing it. He's supposed to fill in the dead air, right? He's supposed to be like talking, blah, blah, blah. You're just supposed to talk. You just fill in that dead air. He didn't do it. And then sometimes when he did, it sounded like he was really close to the microphone the entire time. Like he was like inside the microphone. I think he was nervous. I don't think.
How does Tom Brady get nervous? Like he's won the Super Bowls. He has all those starts. He shouldn't get nervous, right? Nothing should make him nervous.
But we talked about it before. We said, like, before everybody showed up, I said, I think he trained and did 2 full seasons or something like that, or a whole season.
Yeah, a whole season, which he shouldn't be that bad if that's what happened, right?
That's a lot of games. Yeah, I don't know what the deal was. I want to see what he's doing this week. He just posted on his Instagram, like, getting ready for next week's game. I hope it's a lot better. I don't know. It's tough. It's like when somebody gets in that position, you kind of know if they're good or not, right? You know, like we knew the minute Jason Witten stood in that booth, we're like, it's not the guy. And Booger, we knew Booger was not the guy either.
And you also know sometimes the guy is the guy. Tony Romo in his first game, we knew the guy is the guy. Greg Olsen, oh, he's a number one guy, but he's not a quarterback. He's a tight end. Boom, but he's great right away. You just know. And Mike, we're content people. We're not experts on everything. We're experts on content. We're experts on sports content.
Yeah.
I mean, one of us does work in sports content.
Some of us
might.
might.
Some of us might.
Yeah.
So we're both experts in this field. I think you can tell right away whether you're going to be good or not. And I would say, if I didn't sign that contract with Brady, I'd dip out right now. I don't know if it's guaranteed or what. Greg Olsen is a much better analyst. The only reason Brady's there is because of his name, and that's a terrible reason to be in that booth.
How do you think it goes when? Well, who's going to go first? That's my first question. You didn't answer. Is it Brady or Caleb that will no longer be?
Brady leaves first, because when you draft a quarterback number one overall, as the Carolina Panthers showed us yesterday, there's no easy exit strategy. You just got to keep doing the damn thing until you don't do it anymore. And it might be years. And they might do the damn thing with Bryce Young for years. They might do the damn thing with Caleb, and he will improve. I think Caleb will improve more from his first game than Brady will improve from his first game. If he did all these practice games, 18 practice games, he already should be better than this. It shouldn't be like week 1 for him. It should be like week 20. I think Brady is going to exit the booth at some point this year.
Do you think they can move him into the Fox studio with Terry and all those guys and just plop him there? He would be too expensive almost to be in there for like $20 million or whatever a year. How much is it a year? It's a lot.
He's getting $36 million a year, Mike, for 10
million
years. It's a 10-year contract. Like, I don't know if it's fully guaranteed. I don't know if they can get out of it. I think he can get out of it to go be a partial Raiders owner. And I told you last week, that's my conspiracy theory. He's working on this in the background in case he sucks and in case the criticism is so hard. Now, what I would say is the criticism wasn't loud today on social. There was people saying he wasn't great. It wasn't like unanimous, like 100% criticizing him like we saw with Witten and Booger. So maybe people give him a benefit of a doubt for a few more weeks. I don't know what game he's doing this week, but
I think it's the Browns.
He can't do another Browns game. I think he's done with the Browns.
Wait, is it?
Like
Is it Dallas?
Done with the Browns.
It might be Dallas. I don't know.
Dallas Saints. Did he say he's doing that?
Yeah,
game,
Dallas Saints.
All Caleb Williams, though, 1-0, did he complete a pass? I think he completed a pass. He didn't throw for a touchdown.
He completed a few passes. I don't like it. I'm still standing by. He's not going to be good. I hate that he went on the booth and said, I don't care about stats. That man cares about stats. 100% cares about stats. He was not good. Listen, there were so many games on. I'm excited to watch some actual games this weekend, on Sunday, and sit down and watch it all. He was on the screen. We were seeing him play, but I just feel like there's not a lot. I wasn't excited about it. That's what I'll say. He could be another Bryce Young.
You're right. If it wasn't their defense and special teams, they would not have won. They would not have covered. They would not have done any of that. The Titans had a big lead and they blew it. The Titans gave the game to the Bears. Caleb Williams, I think it's it didn't happen. This first game didn't happen because he wasn't great. He wasn't terrible. Maybe next week on Sunday Night Football against C.J. Stroud, maybe that's the time to judge Caleb Williams and say, hey, if you don't have it this week again and your team sucks again on offense, maybe we're looking more at you. By the way, Terry Bradshaw made fun of Caleb Williams' fingertipped nails, his fingerprint.
He was coming out hot with some weird jokes at the beginning, too, about his aunt kissing his aunt and stuff.
But you said you love Terry Bradshaw and the Fox guys. That's why I brought it up.
We were watching the Fox pregame show before. I'm like, yeah, these guys they're just hanging out. Every other show is super produced, and I feel like they're not as highly produced as other shows. They're just hanging out. Just a bunch of guys
hanging out saying inappropriate things. That's what they do. Mike, I have a bullshit or believe for you. Should Dak Prescott be the highest paid football player of all time? Because he is.
Jerry waited. He was strategic. He said, let's wait until all the games are on. It covered in all the football news, all the bad stuff going on. I don't think he deserves it. Jerry is losing his mind, but good for Jerry. He paid the man. There's not going to be any change. It's basically just going to be really shitty guys the next few years, CD and Dak. That's all that's going to be left on that team. They're probably not going to be able to afford anybody else because I think they're taking most of the salary cap.
If you only have two players, CD and Dak are not the worst two players. Dak can get the ball to CD under any circumstance. You're right. Why did Jerry wait so long? I think Jerry announced it during the Tyreek Hill arrest, for maximum, no one look at this kind of thing. But maybe it fired Dak up because he played a great game. They went to Cleveland as underdogs, right? And they won that game on the road. They won it handily.
I think we could talk about how bad Deshaun is too. That's also another thing. I had another thing in here. It's will they sit or trade Deshaun? But then I found out they can't trade Deshaun because it's in his contract, guaranteed, $230 million, I think, 100% guaranteed.
Yeah.
So will they bench him for Jameis? Jameis is still there, right? We love
Jameis is there. Jameis is always trying to come in the game. Jameis is always ready to go. Jameis is firing people up. I'm sure Jameis is a better leader than Deshaun, even not considering all the on-field stuff.
Do you see how like sad Deshaun looks? And he's always like pretending to like roll his shoulder, like, oh yeah, like I'm kind of hurt today. Like I'm not gonna be able to play. It's like, dude, you've been injured all last season. Now I don't even know what the injury was. You're back this season. You should be fresh. You should be ready to go.
Yeah.
He wasn't good, and the defense is good, but he's not good. And maybe we'll see Jameis soon. I think that's a hot take of mine. I think Jameis will be starting at some point because there's no way you can keep rolling with him.
I don't even think it's that hot. That's like a medium take at this point because it's going to happen at some point soon. It's just how long can the Browns like wait? Because the Browns have a good team outside of one position. And at some point there might be like a locker room uprising and say like, we can't win with this guy. We won with Joe Flacco. We won with DRT or whoever that was last year. They could
Dorian
win
Thomas.
with literally anyone. Jameis could be a Super Bowl quarterback for them. I just think the Deshaun Watson situation is bad. They didn't play him in the preseason at all, so it's like the coaching staff isn't even helping him. If he's going to be rusty and hasn't played much football in 4 years, go play preseason. Go get the kinks out there. Instead of week one against a good Dallas defense, he looked terrible. I do have a conspiracy theory about Deshaun as well. The only way that the Browns can get out of this contract is if he's suspended from the NFL again. A new lawsuit just came out today, the day after that terrible performance. Maybe this is a mechanism behind the scenes. Of course, we just throw shit out on this pod. We're just throwing this out. Maybe it's a mechanism to get Deshaun out of the team and also not have to pay the crazy contract. So I don't know what's going on there. Obviously, any lawsuit brought against him is real, but I'm just saying maybe that's a way to get him off the team.
This is random, but I'm gonna ask you, what's like the worst fantasy kind of take this week? Like, who was the worst player that people drafted that thought the hype was real and it was not real? Who was that person to you this week?
I own a few of them. One that I want to talk about, Mike, is credit to you. You're a Cooper Kupp person, and Cooper Kupp looked like 2020 Cooper Kupp last night. That man looked young and fresh, like a young hot guy, like you guys like to call yourselves sometimes. That's what he looked like. He was running all the routes. Stafford targeted him all the time. And then I'm a Puka Nacua owner, and it's like he had the knee injury, he had the bursa sack, he runs 4 routes, and he's got the knee again. He might be out for an extended period. It's like, what are we doing? Why didn't I just become a Cooper Kupp guy? So I was wrong personally on Puka Nacua for one. Chris Olave, I'm not worried about it long term. The guy had like 12 yards. That's a concern. I think Breece Hall is going to suck tonight on Monday Night Football. That's a different story.
Good, yeah, it's tonight,
yeah. How about you?
I felt like there were a lot of people like I feel like Marvin Harrison Jr. might be not being getting enough targets.
Catch.
There was that video of him wide open to possibly win the game, and it was like a clear shot. You could see Murray to Marvin Harrison, and it was like, why didn't he throw to him? I know Murray's short, but there was a clear path over to him.
Mike, he's really short. That could explain things.
He is really short, but I
Kyler
think
kind of seemed back yesterday. He was scrambling around like young Kyler, and we found out Call of Duty's not for another month, so he's locked in these next few games. Bet on the Cardinals, start Kyler in fantasy, because once October hits and Call of Duty hits, we're out.
I was trying to think of some other guys that were just like they weren't living up to the hype. I will say I think Xavier Worthy lived up to the hype. Nice rookie popped off there.
2 touchdowns. Yeah, he's got a weapon for the Chiefs. By the way, did you know the Bills traded with the Chiefs to allow the Chiefs to trade up for Xavier Worthy? That seems like a problem.
Yeah, it seems like the Bills have a problem of not getting the right guys on
the Bills don't have a problem at all. Josh Allen is all they need. They could have 10 scrubs and Josh Allen and win games.
I know it's just not. It's not good. How long will he last? Like he only can get hit so much. What else do you want to talk about? You want to go to the bets? I had my Survivor pool. We were sweating out.
Let's talk about the Survivor. So we are a Survivor show now. A lot of people were eliminated because of the Bengals. And this is a take I could have helped people avoid if they just listened to the Sports Hangover. Because I've been preaching from the mountaintops here. Sports has been telling everyone. Joe Burrow is honest with us.
Years.
He doesn't see the field well in September. Wait till October. They do this every year. They lose in week 1. They have a losing record in September, and they're okay by October and going forward. Of course, the Jamar Chase situation made it even worse. T. Higgins didn't play. Tyler Boyd isn't there anymore. The offense is in shambles, and I think it will be for the next month. But the point here is that the Bengals eliminated 33% of most Survivor picks. I know 33% in your contest, but also going across all Survivors, I'm sure they took out a third of people right there.
We're in another Survivor with less people, but there was 170 entries, and now there's only 100 remaining. So a big wipeout.
Even more than a third.
Yeah.
Wow.
So everybody was on Cincinnati, which makes me so like everybody was so confident, and we just never thought of it. We wanted to be on the Saints. We jumped off the Saints and played Seahawks, which was a terrifying game to watch because it was not going well for a long time. But Survivor's scary. Survivor, I almost like it's every week. If you're not in it, like it obviously it's over, but like the first week was intense. It's like, okay, well now we got to pick a team this week and they have to win so we can get far. Last year I didn't care about it. I was just like, yeah, whatever. Like, let's just pick whatever. And we got to week 13 or something like that. So I hope.
Much more pressure this year. Even pressure in the early games. You had a late game. You went with the Seahawks, which we'll talk about. But you were sweating out some things early. Like you almost picked the Saints and you were upset. The Saints look so good.
They look
by
so
the
good.
way, a Survivor tip going forward, bet on the team playing the Panthers should be a safe bet, right?
We would think, yeah. So this week the Chargers are playing the Panthers.
Boom. Great. Done.
In Carolina. But it does scare me a little bit. It's like, oh, is that too easy? Is everybody going to be on them? Like, that's the thing. You don't want to follow the pack all the time, right? You want to be like, oh, like, what's the second best team? I have a list here. The second best team would either be Detroit, Baltimore, or San Francisco to play them this week.
Well, tell us who they are playing.
Baltimore is playing the Raiders. That's the biggest spread on the board right now, -9.5.
That's in Baltimore. Baltimore's coming off a long stretch since that Thursday night game.
Detroit is playing Tampa, but that really scares me because Tampa actually looked kind of good, a little feisty.
I'm going to talk about Baker Mayfield in a minute, so I'm glad you mentioned that.
And then San Francisco is playing Minnesota, which they kind of look good against the Giants, but the Giants might be the worst team.
I think that game's in Minnesota on a short week for San Francisco. I would stay away from that one because I am a Vikings person. I've been telling people about Sam Darnold all offseason.
I owe you $20. I owe you $20 from that bet, but I think we're just going to roll it the whole season. We'll just bet $20 back and forth until the end of the season, okay?
That seems like you made the decision.
You can collect $1,000 or you can collect nothing, depending on what we do.
Mike really doesn't want to pay me the 20, and I understand
really
it's
don't.
okay. The Giants were that bad. This man bet on a Giants money line yesterday. That's how bleak it is for Mike in week 1. He had bet on Daniel Jones money line.
It was so bad. I lost so many parlays. I was like, yes, all these are going to hit. And nothing hit. It was
You
so
lost
bad.
a lot of things. You were right about the Jags covering against the Dolphins, even though the Dolphins pulled it out. Tell us about the Seahawks. You were sweating that out. I didn't watch much of that game. Bo Nix looked okay, as I mentioned he would.
Well, there were 2 safeties. Seahawks had 2 safeties on them, so that's great. Yeah, they just Gino looks good in like flashes, but not all the time, and they were struggling a little bit to run the ball too much. It was scary, but towards the end of the game, we finally got a little space on them.
I think
it was
halftime
scary.
you were losing, right?
Yeah, halftime. Yeah, so I just feel like with the Survivor pick, it's almost like you never know what's going to happen. I mean, football's crazy. Like no one ever saw New England beating Cincinnati. Like that was not anything anybody predicted. Everybody's like, of course Cincinnati's going to beat them. Now after week 1, I feel like we have a little bit more information. We understand what the teams are doing. We can kind of see it. Like maybe I don't want to bet against Cleveland, but a part of me does as long as Deshaun is starting because we know that they won't be able to move the ball much and he'll fake an injury and go sit on the sideline or something.
It's true. But if Jameis comes in at some point, you got to sweat that out, and that's the scary part.
So this week we're most likely going to go with the Chargers. I mean, it's early in the week. It's Monday. We on our little data sheet here, we have it saying we have a chance of winning by 67%. Baltimore is the biggest one with an 80% chance of winning. So I don't understand this the 67% because they seem like they're the much better team, but not that much better. But Chargers is kind of what we're sticking with right now. We've mapped out about 4 weeks.
You don't really want to use the Ravens early. The Ravens are one of the best teams in the league. You would like to avoid using them week 2. Now, so many people are eliminated, Mike. You might need to be a little safer going forward because so many people, 33 to 50%, are now out of these Survivor pools. The strategy changes for you and our listeners.
So the strategy that I heard from somebody was say, pick all the same games for the first few weeks. Like if you have 10 entries into it, do 10 entries of Seattle or New Orleans.
Which you didn't do yesterday.
We didn't do. We diversified a little bit, but now it's like it's hard because do we have our 9 other picks available? Do we go to just the Chargers this week? And it's tough. It's like a math game and a strategy game because you got to figure out, well, this team has no value going forward. Like Saints have no value, future value, unless they play Panthers again, which they will because they're in division. So we'll play them at some point and hopefully they do the same thing unless there's a new quarterback.
It's always possible. Mike, can you please go to page 270 of the manifesto? What is the rule on West Coast teams traveling east for an early 1 o'clock kick? Because that is what the Chargers are doing against the Panthers.
I think there used to be a rule, but I think everybody said there's nothing that proves that. I do have some stats, though, from the manifesto this week, if you want to listen to it.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so faves in week 2 only cover 44% of the time, which means underdogs.
We're all overreacting to
Correct.
week 1 is what we're doing.
Do not overreact this week.
Well, this whole pod is an overreaction. But
it is. Mahomes is 22-4 straight up in September.
That man was at the U.S. Open with Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift yesterday. I don't know. He wasn't working on game film yesterday, I'll tell you that.
I don't like that they're too public now and I can see what they're doing. If they were just silently doing stuff and I never knew you were out like drinking on a Saturday or a Sunday, I would like it better. But now that I see it, I'm like, oh, are you going to be okay? Like, are you hungover on Sunday watching football all day? Like, what's going on? And then here's the best one. This is for you, Jeremy. You're in our contest as well. In the pick'em contest, week 2 teams that lost by 10 or more are 36-18 against the spread, and if on the road, they're 24-1 against the spread.
Wow! So teams that got blown out in week 1 that go on the road usually cover in week 2.
So here are all the teams that got blown out. I'm trying to see. I think they're all mostly on the road. So
I'm not betting on the Browns, dude. I am not doing that.
So Raiders, Browns, Washington, Giants, and Carolina are all the teams. Probably bottom
Some bad
5,
ones.
right?
That's tough. Washington, I thought looked okay. Tampa looked really good. We're gonna talk about Tampa, but Washington, I thought looked good with Daniels. I would bet on them. Who are they playing?
Washington is playing the Giants.
Oh, which I love that. They're probably gonna be favorites though.
But that's 2 bad teams that lost by 10, which I don't know what the stats are, playing each other. It's not good.
Well, I know not to bet on Daniel Jones and the Giants. I think I know that much.
Should we take a Washington as our survivor pick? You think Washington could beat them this week?
That's a little more ballsy. I wouldn't recommend that, but I would definitely take Washington in our contest. Bad teams will stay bad in a lot of ways. The Panthers and Giants will stay bad, I'm pretty sure.
Well, Washington is favored. We don't want favorites this week as much, but we'll see where the line goes.
We don't want that. The Bills and Dolphins play Thursday night. You don't really bet weeknight games. If you had to bet that game, who would you take?
Where are they? They're in Miami.
They're in Miami,
still at home.
Thursday night. Humidity, but it's a night game. So it's like they're coming down, but it's at night. Our home field advantage doesn't work the same.
I don't know who's better because Jags Miami played. I don't really believe in Jags that much, but Bills kind of look good. I would probably give it to you. I mean, right now you're -2.5 favorite at home.
Ooh, so it's kind of like a pick 'em when you factor home field in.
Yeah, so home field is like that 2.5. So we'll kind of see what happens this week. Maybe Tyreek gets, maybe goes to jail. Who knows?
I mean, if he doesn't get arrested on the way, he might not play as well because that was his longest touchdown ever.
True.
So maybe we could hire a cop to arrest him, get him fired up going forward. I don't know.
How'd you do in your picks last week?
I'm 2-2 heading into the Niners tonight. Of course, the Niners covered against the Jets. The Jets are fraudulent. I am all out on the Jets in every way. I would not be surprised if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt before he plays a pass tonight in that game. Just that might happen again. It wouldn't even be a crazy thing. It's just how he rolls. He may have retired 2 years ago, except he didn't tell anyone because he wants to keep it going. So we'll see if that works out tonight with the Jets. A few things I want to mention before we go, Mike.
Yeah.
J Dawg was right and J Dawg was wrong about a few things in week 1. A few things I was right on. Joe Burrow, check mark. He doesn't win in September. Move on until October. Sam Darnold and the Vikings. That's why I'm not taking the Niners. That line might be 8 or 9 next week. I'm going to be all over the Vikings against the Niners on a short week. Niners are going to wake up on Tuesday morning and then fly to Minnesota on Saturday, like 4 or 5 days later. Yeah. That's very short. And then the Giants, as we mentioned. Daniel Jones and the Giants will keep fading them. I'm on Washington this week. All of the listeners should be too. Where was J Dawg wrong? I had the Packers winning the Super Bowl. They couldn't even win Friday night in Brazil. That was a bad start.
Well, Packers, Love's out for a few weeks, so it's like, will they even make the playoffs? That's a big question, too, because, who's going to come in there and play? I don't think, was it Malik?
Malik Willis. You used to like him.
He's not good. They gave him a shot in Tennessee, and it just didn't work out for him. He was never able to throw the ball. He could run, but he could never throw that ball to anybody.
It's kind of an issue. All those Packers receivers want the ball, too.
Yeah.
I was also wrong on the Bucks. Credit to the Bucks fans in my life. Credit to Baker Mayfield. I thought he would come out.
looking good.
What I tell you, after you get paid, you might not try as hard. You might rest up. I think I talked you out of taking the Bucks in your survivor pool. That would have been an easy one.
Yeah,
you would
we
not
had
have
them
been
in there
sweating
too.
that at all. The Bucks looked really good, and they could go to Detroit. I thought the Lions really used a lot of adrenaline in overtime last night. Their offensive linemen had to work a little harder running the ball late. Maybe the Bucks go up there with fresher energy and take on the Lions in a close game. And then I was also wrong, as I mentioned, on Cooper Kupp. So a few of these I mentioned before, but it's okay to be wrong. It's week one. We adjust, we learn, we pivot, and it's week 2, and we're going to win all of our bets.
I hope. All right. Good show. That's it. That's all I got. I mean, I do have picks if you want to hear my picks this week, but it's very,
Rattle
very,
them off. Let's hear
very
it.
early. Unfortunately, on my pick sheet here, I put Buffalo plus 2.5 against Miami.
Oh, so you do have a pick.
So Buffalo against Miami. I have Kansas City minus 6 at home playing Cincinnati.
Even though Mahomes was drinking.
Joe Burrow did not. I don't know what's going on with his wrist.
It's true.
But
We're
and
fading
Chase was
Cincy.
not happy. He's like, ask Zach. Like, ask Zach what's going on. It's like, come on, dude. You're not playing. He doesn't want
Be a
to
better
get paid.
teammate during this.
I have Indy minus 3.5 at Green Bay. No quarterback. If Malik's playing, seems like an easy win there.
Thick Rich, 9 for 19, not the best stat line.
But some big throws. So he was out there.
At least one.
He was out there. Chargers at Carolina minus 5.5. Hopefully that line doesn't go up too high.
Easy-
but this
easy
could be
money.
a trap game. Could be a trap game.
I didn't think the Chargers were that good. I thought they were impressive against the Raiders. Maybe that means the Raiders aren't very good. You look around the Chargers roster, I'm telling you, you don't recognize many names. Normally in the NFL, that's a problem.
I don't believe in the Chargers, so that's why it scares me a little bit.
Yeah.
And last one, I'm taking Arizona plus 1.5 at home against the Rams. I like in division, division dog at home. They play each other tough. So we'll see how the week goes.
Too. You're on board with Kyler.
I'm on board to getting points at home because I don't know how good. I always feel like Stafford and Jared Goff play each other like they're in a shootout every week. So that's kind of like what I'm seeing. But who knows? Who knows how good Arizona is?
All right.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Enjoy the games. Week 2. We're in it now. We're in
it. Monday Night Football is coming up. All right. See ya.